Hey everybody, Drake here. I'm just doing some quick stuff about the changes for Gnome Sequencer for Legion. You'll notice I've got add-ons loaded, I've got Gnome Sequencer enhanced, I've got nothing else loaded at the moment. So one of the first things is I've added in like just a simple help menu. So if you go /gs help, it'll tell you the following information. So I've just got the base modern mode loaded, I've got nothing else loaded. So there's no sequences installed. But I can see that Gnome Sequencer is in there and it's giving me some stuff. So one of the fun parts is there's a couple of new functions. There's a function called Gnome Spec List All, and there's a function called Show Spec. Now the Show Spec one, I'm using GS as a shortcut for Gnome. This tells me that my current spec is 70 Retribution. This is just some programming type stuff, and so forth. So, and GS List All. At the moment it's telling me I've got no macros. Same as if I do a GS. There's nothing. So each macro now is tied to a spec, and you can turn around and say that's a prot spec, that's a retribution one. You could even do healing ones if you want. This is telling me that I've got no macros left for like a retribution paladin. So if I go back to my add-ons and I add on GS macros, load add-on, it's going to tell me it's only loadable on demand. So we've just got to do a console reload UI. Voila. If I now do a GS, it'll tell me about these macros that exist. Now, in a couple of minutes, I'll go across to the macro side of stuff and I'll show you that. But it's literally saying that there's this one here, ret st legion. So I add this in as I did in the past. The whole point of this thing is just so that I can see it easily. So I'll just go delete. I'll just delete out these old ones so there's nothing there. So we get new macro, ret st legion. And yeah, I'll pick something paladinish like old Crusader Strike. Alright, I drag that, drop it onto the bar, close the window, walk up to my mod, and I just start hitting stuff. And it'll cycle through. Right, so it's just basically flipping through my list of bits and pieces, cycling through, building up my holy power, spending it, and all that kind of stuff. Alright, so you notice I got these split into two halves. If you're a person that's used Gnome Sequencer before and you're quite happy with everything in one sequences file, you can keep doing that. If you wanted to take all of your macros and split them out from the mod and sort them by class and whatever else, you can do that as well. And I'll show you how that all works. So this is the inside part of the game. The rest of this stuff all occurs in a text editor. In the first part, we just looked at using Gnome Sequencer in game at the end result. Now, this is about configuring it. Unfortunately, most of the stuff is done outside the game because it's just not possible for us inside at the moment. But there's two add-ons I've got loaded into my interface add-ons. I've got GS Core, GS Strikes macros. Now, if you're an existing Gnome Sequence user, you're quite happy with it, you got all your macros in one sequences file and you're happy with that, then all you need to do is go to here and edit your sequences file. So open her up, we go to example sequences, you take the first line, go back to your sequences file, throw that in, and throw your macro in. And I'm just going to grab one that I've created earlier. So here's my macro, form, dang, save this, go into game, go /gs as Retribution Paladin, and this will pop up. The changes in this is that these three lines are what gives most of this magic source the magic source. Spec ID 70 is Retribution Paladins. You get this from just going /gs space show spec, and it'll pop out the number. It'll tell you, yeah, there's like 571 I think is Demon Hunters. All of these are in the README file at the bottom. They're also on wowprogramming.com, but it's literally these. If you do these numbers, when you do a GS as this particular spec, it'll spit out those macros. It doesn't stop you using another, like you could use an Arcane Mage macro as a Paladin. It doesn't stop you doing any of that. It's just nothing will really help you too much. Yeah, so moving it back. So if this is what you've done in the past, this is all you have to do. The downside of this is that you end up with a big long sequences.lua file. That didn't really appeal to me. I like things a little bit more modular than that. So what I've done, no I don't want to save this, is leaving that, I've split this into two mods where there's a macros mod. And the macros mod, I've split them up by class. I just made this so that other people could make macro packs, literally. I've made my own because I play stuff of every class, but some people might want to create a PvP set. They might be a specialist in creating bandage weaving macros, whatever else. So you could create these in any particular way. So the difference is that, like, on these files, these are loaded halfway through the GNOME sequencer bit. So instead of that initial line that we copied from example sequences, it needs to start with this line. This does the magic sauce of putting this stuff into the other mod, and off it goes. And again, it's literally the same flow. The difference is I've just put all my Paladin ones in this, other ones are in the other ones. So again, this GS macros bit is optional. You don't have to load this. This is just, I've done this for my benefit. I'm just throwing it out there for the community. You don't have to go down this creating another mod path, but if you do, this magic is in this file, the gs.toc. So whatever you call it, so you could create one, let's call it new folder. It needs to start GS in caps, caps lock, GS new stuff. Great. So we go in, we need to create one of these files. So if I just do a little bit of copy paste type stuff, we need that. Paste. Now this needs to match the case and the name of the previous folder. Right, so GS new macros, blah 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 blah. Drake version 1. Now these two lines are the lines that matter. Required dependencies GS core, load on demand. These tell the core of GNOME Sequencer to load this mod in, you need it. Those two lines are essential. This is just how I broke this up. Now you could turn around and keep that, or you could turn around and go, right, I want a pvp.lua file and I want a pve.lua. Right? I don't want any of this other stuff. I just want these two files. It really is up to you as to how you structure it. It all depends on what you're doing. And so we then go new text document pvp.lua. Yes, I want to change it because I'm lazy. Open one of these up, and that's not the window I was looking for. You need this line, local thing, and then your stuff. Copy paste file. And alright, so I've got that one. Give it a different name. Right, PvP, blah 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 blah. So forth. Save this, and you're away. So this GS new stuff I could now bundle up in a zip file, throw it on my interface, share it with people, other people could download it, they could go to Whale Lazy Macros, download my macro pack. All they've got to do is throw this in, and GS Core does the magic sauce for it. That's pretty much it. So it's literally a case of using GNOME Sequencer. There's just a little bit of help stuff. There's the GS space help, there's the /GS space show spec, GS to just show all macros. There's the splitting it out into a mod if you want to do that. Otherwise, it's just a case of editing your sequences thing, adding in the three extra lines, your spec ID, author and help text, and that's it. Anyway, good luck. If you have any questions, I generally follow the WoW interface stuff. I don't always respond because I actually have a job and a life and a wife and a whole bunch of other bits. But yeah, hopefully see you in game. Cheers.